evening, I'm Diane in Hong Kong and you're watching ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Carrie Lam meets and greets on her second day in office as she promises to unite a polarized society. The League of Social Democrats' Avery Ng files a report accusing police officers of physically assaulting him yesterday. And reports in a British newspaper say that Theresa May is planning to walk away from Brexit negotiations over the size of the divorce bill. Well, first up, new Chief Executive Carrie Lam made a number of district visits today on the second day in office as she promised to reach across divides and accommodate different points of views. The visits were made as her second-in-command has vowed to build a better relationship between the government and the region's young people. Matthew Cheung still warned, however, that protecting the country's sovereignty was a new administration's most critical mission. Evelina Leung has more.
Just one day after being sworn in as chief executive, and Carrie Lam is already trying to show her determination to build bridges. Glad-handing people all over town, her mission is clearly to win over those who may have questions about Hong Kong's direction over the next 5 years. She first appeared at Chok Yuen Village in Tai Kau Ling, a village that has been used to relocate people affected by construction work at the Liang Tang boundary control point. Lam then continued on to Hong Kong. CCTV state media had earlier released an interview with her recorded before her swearing in which she said that mending ties with the opposition is not something she could do on her own.
I will take the initiative to meet with different parties and people, but I cannot control their reactions. I can only promise to do my best on this issue.
The CE has also vowed to put more emphasis on youth development, while admitting she rarely got to speak with young people in the past. Not everyone's convinced, though. Her new deputy, Matthew Cheung, has refused to comment on whether the government will try to introduce the controversial national education plans once again, alluded to by President Xi Jinping during his visit. Cheung claimed that more opportunities will be offered to the young people, in particular from the new Commission on Youth, a platform designed for younger citizens to make their voices heard. But ultimately, this government still wants to emphasize that protecting the country's sovereignty still comes first.
Meantime, pro-democracy activists have said that Carrie Lam has a major task at hand if she wants harmony in Hong Kong, and that is to rein in police violence. The League of Social Democrats' Avery Ng has today filed a police report alleging that he was assaulted by officers in a police van yesterday. League of Social Democrats chairman Avery Ng is accusing the police of assaulting him ahead of a demonstration yesterday. In the police report he filed today, Ng said officers assaulted him in a police van. In a phone interview, Demosisto founder Joshua Wong says he's worried about a rise in violent suppression of dissent by police.
It's really a shame for Hong Kong, such an international city. Peaceful demonstration, after they have been arrested and taken to the police car, police use violence and to punch them and beat them. It is really ridiculous.
Wong himself was taken into a police van ahead of the protests in handcuffs, although he was apparently being attacked by pro-China demonstrators at the time. He insists the way the police handled the pro-democracy demonstrators over the past few days shows Hong Kong's decline into a, quote, police state.
Police, they would just use violence to control all of the activists. Instead of having anti-terrorism, I think they are just anti-activism. In the first day of the operation of the chief executive and also the visit of presidency, it's just proof that if Carrie Lam wants to solve the so-Nazi conflict, it's really unachievable under such hard lines from the police.
In response to the allegations, police said because those being taken away were emotionally agitated, handcuffs were needed to, quote, protect them and others from being harmed. They added that they arrested 3 of the men who were suspected of attacking the protesters. Meantime, press freedom in Hong Kong has got worse in the last 3 years, according to the Journalists Association annual report, which blames increasing pressure from Beijing. The report, entitled Two Systems Under Siege, pointed out that Beijing's increased pressure on local media had directly followed Xi Jinping's ascent to the presidency and the 2014 Occupy Central protests. An increase in self-censorship had been a result, the association said. The report highlighted the Economic Journal removing columnist Joseph Lian's column right before the Legislative Council election.
Chinese capital or the biggest shareholder of a media outlet will affect the media policy, especially the news coverage, and this will definitely arouse self-censorship because those journalists or media workers will not just design how news issues should be handled apart from professional standards.
Now, overseas and in the UK, Brexit negotiations already appear to be on a knife edge just weeks after formally beginning, as a report in the British press suggested Theresa May could be preparing to walk away. The Sunday Telegraph said the British business leaders have been warned that the Prime Minister could make a stand over the mooted divorce bill of more than $100 billion. It's understood the move could be designed to play to domestic audiences in the UK to show that the country is negotiating hard with the European Union over its exit from the organisation. The Prime Minister's office has not yet commented on the reports, while the newspaper has not disclosed how it got the story. Qatar's foreign minister has said that the list of demands made by the Gulf states were made to be rejected, accusing them of trying to curtail its national sovereignty. Speaking to reporters in Rome, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani said that the list of demands and the ultimatum delivered by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. The four countries have blockaded Qatar over accusations that it supports terrorism.
This list of demands made to be rejected. It's not made to be accepted or not made to be negotiated. The state of Qatar, instead of rejecting it as a principle, we are willing to engage in providing the proper condition for further dialogue.
So the U.S. and a shooting at a nightclub in Arkansas has injured 25 people after a fight broke out at a hip-hop concert. All those who were injured are expected to recover from the incident, which took place in the city of Little Rock in the southern state. No arrests have yet been reported. The state's governor has now called for a fresh effort to lower violent crime in the city. Little Rock's mayor said action had already been taken against the venue.
I want to reassure our public that this was not an act of terrorism, but a tragedy, a local community tragedy. It does not appear to be a planned shooting. It appears that there was a disagreement amongst a small subset of individuals at a concert that turned violent because of the presence of rivalries and weapons.
Staying in the U.S., investigators looking into the disappearance of a Chinese student who vanished from the University of Illinois have said they now believe she is dead. One man has been arrested in connection with the case. Diane Hodges has more.
It's the news that friends and relatives were dreading to hear. Investigators believe a missing Chinese student is dead. 26-year-old Yingying Zhang disappeared from the University of Illinois June 9th, only a few weeks after she arrived. Police say 27-year-old Brent Christensen admits picking her up at a bus stop. They've now charged him with kidnapping, but say they believe Zhang is dead. Christensen graduated from the school in May with a master's in physics. News of his arrest caught the community by surprise.
I've received many emails from faculty and students expressing shock that this happened. Those that knew him are quite surprised. There was no hint of something like this.
There are about 5,600 Chinese students at the University of Illinois, more than any other U.S. college.
That's fine, Yinging.
On a university website, Chancellor Robert Jones is asking everyone at the school to keep Zhang's family in their thoughts and to focus on a celebration of her life.
Meantime, Donald Trump has continued a verbal assault on MSNBC morning TV hosts Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough with a series of late-night tweets on Saturday. The U.S. president tweeted that crazy Joe Scarborough and dumb as a rock Mika are not bad people, but their low-rated show is dominated by their NBC bosses. Too bad. It follows from another attack on the pair on Thursday in tweets that were condemned by politicians and commentators on both sides of the political divide, including senior Republicans like House Leader Paul Ryan. Meanwhile, Trump appeared at the Kennedy Center in Washington to talk to military veterans, honoring them ahead of the July 4th Independence Day holiday. In an event that resembled many of his campaign speeches, the president railed against the news media against a background of choir singing and flag waving. He accused what he called the fake media of trying to silence him, claiming his victory in November's presidential election showed they had failed.
We won and they lost. The fact is, the press has destroyed themselves because they went too far. Instead of being subtle and smart, they used a hatchet. And the people saw it right from the beginning.
Time for a break, but don't go away. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the Tour de France and how one slip might have already changed the race.